Good afternoon, Gibson City United Methodist Church. I'm Susan Schultz, your Facebook page administrator, here with day 12 of our Advent Chrismons um, presentations. Yesterday, one of the symbols we had was the shell, and today we're sticking with um, items of nature, only these are plants. So I have 3 plants to share with you. The first one is the thistle. And the thistle, Melody Ferguson has on the back, is a symbol of earthly sorrow and sin and the sufferings of Christ. And I also found that because there's also a tradition where the thistle and its flower, that a flower represents someone who's enlightened, and so that would be, and then would wear the crown, and Jesus would be the enlightened one in that line of thinking. And then with the prickles that are on a thistle, that would be thorns. So that would make sense that the flower represents a crown, would be the crown, and then yet made of thorns. So that's what the thistle symbol is about. Next we have wheat. Well, that doesn't, there we go. Wheat, so there we go. And she writes, the wheat symbolizes thankfulness for the bounty of the earth, and when used with grapes or a vine, it represents the Last Supper, which would be the bread, which would be the body, as United Methodists understand the body of Christ. Which then brings us to the grapes. And the grapes are used to symbolize the sacrament of Holy Communion, because they would symbolize the juice or the wine, which then represent Christ's blood shed for us. And then I went on a grapes and juice rabbit hole because as United Methodists, we do not use wine in our communions. We use grape juice, and grape juice has a history, or has its foundation in Wesleyan or Methodist history. So if you only wanted to hear what the actual ornaments meant, you are dismissed, I guess. But I wanted to, we have known that. We've known that Welch and grape juice is part of has a connection to our Methodist Wesleyan history. And so that ended up, I ended up finding out a little bit more about that maybe some of it was new to me. So it might be new to you if you're interested. Thomas Welch, who lived in the 1800s, was he started out as a Methodist pastor, but his voice couldn't keep up with that, so he went to school and became a physician. And eventually, I didn't see where exactly, he actually switched and became a dentist. So that had a little more interest for me too, because I did not know that. And he began in the Methodist Episcopal Church, and that's from where our denomination includes the MEs. And he ended up switching membership over to the Wesleyan Church. He liked something, well, let's just put it this way. The Wesleyan Church, right away from the beginning, was against slavery. And for a while, the Methodist Episcopal Church maybe wasn't quite there yet. So he switched to the Wesleyan Church, and the Wesleyan Church always didn't want well, both churches actually, Wesleyan and the Methodist Episcopal, from their starts in the United States for sure, no intoxicating liquor. The pastors preached to not be using those, and so they didn't want to use them in communion. And so in 1843, this Dr. Welch, because he was a physician and then a dentist, he came up with Dr. Welch's unfermented wine, and which meant juice, and they encouraged all the churches to be using that instead of wine. In fact, at the conference in 1864, the Methodist Episcopal Church said that we must use only the pure juice of the grape. And then in 1869 is when Thomas and his son Charles pioneered pasteurization. Now, to keep it from fermenting the years before that, they used a different process, but it was through the process of pasteurization, which really took off later. It was Dr. Welch and his son Charles, who, by the way, was also a dentist, and then it really took off. And the father and son founded Welch's Dental Supply Company in Philadelphia. So again, a little bit personal for me. I didn't know that the Welch's grape juice and dentistry and Methodism all combine here. I thought that was pretty funny for me. And in 1893 is when the Welch's Juice Company officially launched. So there you go. That's the rabbit hole of the unfermented wine that we use in our United Methodist Church. In my researching, I found a really fun quiz about communion on the United Methodist webpage. So I'm going to put the link to that quiz in the comments here, or maybe in the description when I'm done. And you might want to just take it. Takes about 2 minutes to see what you know of our tradition of United Methodism and communion. So I know that was a little bit of a side venture, but I just wanted to supply a few more tidbits of that history of the grape juice that we use in our Holy Communion. So again, the thistle, that's a plant, thistle, wheat, and grapes. So we'll put those on our Chrismons tree. And we are thankful for the elements of nature that God has provided. And when we see these things out in nature, they can help point us to remembering Christ in our lives. So thanks for being here with me today, and I plan to be here again tomorrow. Have a good evening.